The EPA plans to repeal a landmark finding that greenhouse gases are a threat to public health. It marks one of the Trump administration's most pointed efforts yet to reverse policy on climate change. The 2009 declaration, known as the endangerment finding, has served as the basis for climate regulations like limiting emissions from cars and power plants. Now, the White House is rolling it back in what EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin is calling the largest deregulatory action in the history of the United States. Joining us now, NBC News medical contributor Dr. Vin Gupta. He's a member of the board of directors of the American Lung Association, which advocates for climate action to protect health. Dr. Gupta, great to see you as always. So can you explain a little bit more about what this declaration from 2009 is exactly and what it means for policy, and then because of that, what it means to roll it back?
Absolutely, Willie. Good morning. So the endangerment finding was, to your point, in the late 2000s was established and was codified because the Supreme Court basically told the EPA to do this. And that was towards the tail end, Willie, of the George W. Bush administration to say, can you figure out if greenhouse gases, does the science say that greenhouse gases, are they harmful to human health? The endangerment finding ultimately was the result of that body of work saying unequivocally that yes, indeed, greenhouse gases through the production of ozone, methane, carbon dioxide, all the things that we're all very familiar with are not good for us for a variety of reasons. And so that was codified into law. And basically, the Supreme Court said, if that is the case for the EPA, you need to regulate the emission of greenhouse gases. So again, this happened this actually started in a Republican administration, was codified under President Obama, and here we are. And so every policy ever since, regulating greenhouse gas emissions from cars, Willie, from other sources, has been based on this endangerment finding.
So, Dr. Gupta, let's talk asthma with regard to this issue. Is this like foreboding a country pretty soon with cars without mufflers? I mean, or is that going too far? What's going to be in the air for people with asthma, young children with asthma?
You know, Mike, you and I have talked about this, but there is now more than ever before. There's more than the 20 years I've been in medicine. Have my peers seen that more people are coming into the ER to urgent care because they've been coughing due to wildfire smoke exposure, because they've been sitting in traffic for too long. And we know that the air in traffic is not good for you. Same thing with heat exhaustion. We're seeing rates of these things and people showing up with low blood pressure to the emergency room because they've been exposed to unending, unrelenting heat. The macro numbers, Mike, are just as worse. Deaths, so there's a lot of naysayers out there. It's hard to look at the data and say we're faking it. Deaths from extreme heat never been higher. The toll of air pollution, fourth independent leading cause of death worldwide. I can go on and on the macro numbers. But yes, the concern here is the EPA under the Trump administration is now saying we do not need to regulate the emission of greenhouse gases, unprecedented. So what does that mean for your tailpipe? There's no regulations. So vehicles, gas emitting or combustion engine vehicles no longer will be held if this goes through. There will no longer be actual regulations here, which means nothing but badness for human health, for our lungs, for our heart.
So, Dr. Gupta, let's dive in a little deeper on that. Like on this legislation, give us some more of the specific impacts were it to happen. And the big picture. I mean, if greenhouse gases, the underpinning of all of this is that greenhouse gases are going to warm the planet. We see, on a daily basis, the impact of climate change. It feels like this will only accelerate it.
It's broad-based, Jonathan. And so to take the vehicle issue here, number one, this is not, opponents of greenhouse gas regulation will say, well, that's an EV mandate. That's nonsense. That's not the case here. Basically, newer generations of combustion engine vehicles are susceptible and liable to be held to these new standards because, again, greenhouse gases have been viewed by both political parties historically as not good for health. So what does that mean for the newer generation of vehicles? There will be no limits here. It's more expensive for car makers to some degree to adhere to these new emissions. Yes, there's an increased cost, but there's a reason why we do that, because there's downstream benefit for the planet, for our health. Ultimately, these vehicles actually are are pretty good to drive as well. So there's a lot of broad-based benefits. More broadly, for power plant emissions, there will be now we're removing the underlying reason why we say let's regulate greenhouse gas emissions from power plants. So Jonathan, this is broad-based. This is going to impact every element of society. And really, it's a paradox to the Make America Healthy Again agenda. We have talked about this on Trump's HHS secretary likes to talk about the impact of the environment on human health. I wonder what he's thinking when he's seeing his own peers at the EPA do something like this, because this is exactly counter to everything he's putting out there from the MAHA agenda.
And a rejection of decades of climate science as well. Dr. Gupta, we appreciate you staying on this story, bringing it to our attention this morning. NBC News medical contributor, Dr. Vin Gupta, thank you.